If you ask most big film fanatics what the greatest movie of all time is objectively, their answers are probably going to look pretty similar. They're going to say Citizen Kane, The Godfather, Casablanca, 2001: A Space Odyssey, which are all amazing movies and worthy of being considered some of the best ever. But it's just kind of weird how these handful of picks are always considered to be the best objectively. And if I say a movie like Toy Story is better than Scarface, I'm gonna get some weird looks. But what is a good movie?
He said it! He said it!
At the end of the day, there isn't really a set metric on what makes one movie objectively better than another. I can really sit here and make an argument for Smosh the movie being better than Goodfellas, and there's nothing you can do about it. Would I be wrong? No, but there's an argument. It's based on what each individual deems to be important when talking about what makes a movie good. Everybody has their own metrics, and art is very subjective. But I guess what kind of annoys me about these basic picks that I mentioned is that it's kind of just playing it safe just for the fact of playing it safe. And they're always from like the beginning of the 1900s. No matter how good it is, a movie like The Godfather is never gonna mean more to me than a movie like Click does. Yes, Adam Sandler's Click. That movie is amazing and I don't care what anybody says. It's just based on what I grew up watching and what I enjoy seeing in movies. And just based on entertainment and story-wise, I think a movie like Wreck-It Ralph is amazing. That story is so heartfelt and it's super entertaining. Toy Story, like I mentioned before, would be a top 10 movie ever to me. The story, the animations, the music, the fact that it was really the first movie to pull off animations like this. And I feel like every time people talk about the best movies ever, none of them are from the 2000s. If you look at the American Film Institute's top 10 movies of all time, they got Citizen Kane and Casablanca 1 and 2, which both came out in the early 1940s. The two best movies of all time, according to them, are from the 40s. I love both of these movies. They're great, but how? And on the rest of the list, most of the movies are from the 50s and the 60s. These movies are fantastic, but stop acting like we haven't had amazing top 10 movies in the past 30 years. Get Out is one of the best movies I've ever seen, and while it's critically acclaimed, nobody talks about being one of the best because it's newer. And in the past 20 years, we've had the best superhero movies ever. The point is, I feel like there's been plenty of newer movies to come out that never get talked about as being some of the greatest or in that top 5 that should be. Movies like Pulp Fiction and Titanic and Forrest Gump, these all came out in the 90s and they're already considered to be classics. But I feel like these objective lists are picking these older movies and discrediting new ones. Nobody's arguing Citizen Kane isn't fantastic, but there's no way it's better than every movie that's come out for the past 80 years. It's like arguing some Beethoven album is top 5 of all time. I guess it's kind of hard to argue against, but it's just such a basic pick. But to be fair, making a objective list on anything to do with art is always going to be technically impossible, just because everybody notices different things and everybody thinks their opinion is right. And I won't deny the fact that movies have taken a noticeable decline in the past 10 years. Like I just made a video on how lazy Hollywood is now. But why in no top 10 list is there ever any comedy movies? The genre of comedy gets disrespected when talking about the best movies, which is some BS in my opinion. Not even as being the best, just as like a good movie. They always act like if the movie is like silly and goofy, it's not good. A movie like Dumb and Dumber is never talked about as being a good movie. People just talk about how it's funny and crazy, but never how actually good it is. Or Step Brothers. This movie is a classic to me. Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly's chemistry through the movie is just amazing, and it's just a funny, good, entertaining movie. Superbad is like the greatest high school movie ever made. It was literally written by a high school Seth Rogen, and you could definitely tell. I know the plot of a movie like Superbad isn't as deep and complex as a movie like 2001, but I feel like points should be awarded for being super entertaining and funny. Ted had some of the most ridiculous, stupid scenes ever, and it's still one of my personal favorites to this day. But if you ask any super harsh film critic about a movie like Ted, they're gonna laugh at it, and not in the funny way. So when it comes to the clear, objective definition of what makes a movie good, how do you define it? It's all subjective, but I think I've noticed a few key components on what makes a movie good, and I've narrowed it down to 3. One of the most important being the story. We see all the time these big crazy Marvel productions that spent $1 million on these cool scenes and shots, but the story sucks so nobody likes it. It's the biggest reason why the last Joker movie sucked. They had all the cool shots and all the good promotion and all the cool effects, but the story story was terrible. It didn't go anywhere. It didn't have any meaning. It moved so fast, it was predictable. Everything about the story was just bad. So you could spend $1 billion on cool special effects, but if the story sucks, nobody cares. It's why a movie like Good Will Hunting is one of my personal favorites. The story it takes you through and the character development that Will goes through throughout the movie is just amazing. And I think a big reason people consider these older movies to be so much better than today is because of the story they tell. If you go strictly off look and appeal, movies today are going to win that argument every single time. I know nowadays people like the older feel of stuff, but realistically, movies today look a lot better. But a story like It's a Wonderful Life isn't something you're ever going to be able to buy. No matter the budget or the technology, people can tell when a story sucks. A movie like The Truman Show has one of the coolest story concepts ever. It's completely about a guy whose entire life has been on TV without him knowing, and they executed this crazy idea so well. Jim Carrey is amazing in it, and I think he was perfect for the role, which is why the next key component is good acting. A good actor can really make or break how good a movie is. While that last Joker sucked, the one that came out in 2019 was so good because of how good Joaquin Phoenix was as the Joker. It was like he was born for that role. He was perfect for it. Or look at Jack Nicholson in The Shining. He doesn't have to do anything extreme to look scary. He just looks scary. Like he actually looks like a deranged man in this movie. Napoleon Dynamite, just off vibes alone, is one of my favorite movies. But can you imagine if anybody else played Napoleon Dynamite? He was quite literally perfect for this role. I don't know if he's been in like anything else, but they made the perfect decision casting him. And the last key component that I consider to be important when making a good movie is making a movie that's evergreen. We're gonna call this its evergreenness. In other words, its longevity. Decades after this movie comes out, are people still gonna be talking about how good it is? How is this movie gonna age compared to other movies from its time? The worst thing that producers do today is make a movie solely with the intent of making money. It can work and you might do some okay box office numbers, but in a year, nobody cares. And 20 years down the line, people watch it and they're like, wow, this sucks. You can literally show anybody a movie like Star Wars and they're gonna enjoy it. And it still holds up so much today, which is why it's considered to be such a good movie. And Scarface is still an amazing movie that will most likely never get old. So if you were going to define what makes the objective greatest movies of all time, that's how I would define it. But realistically, a lot of other things are gonna come up in consideration. A big one being nostalgia. You can put objective over whatever you want, but there's no such thing as a objective rating for anything. Even if it's subconsciously, we're always using our own personal biases. And it's not like it's a bad thing at all. It's what makes these conversations fun. You can show two different people The Wizard of Oz, and they're both gonna have drastically different takeaways from the movie. Even though it's the same movie, we've all got a different perspective. All in all, there's definitely a lot of metrics that you can use to decide which movies are actually the best, but at the end of the day, it should kind of just be what movies are good to you. Which movies do you think are the best? Who cares about a objective list? So I guess to answer the question of what is a good movie, it's up to you. Whatever answer you came to in your brain, you're right. You're the winner. Congratulations. Leave whatever your favorite or best movies are down in the comments below. And what do you define as a good movie? But that is all I've got for today. Thank you all for watching. And with that being said, I'm out of here and I'll see you on the next one.